My parents threw me out for my pregnant sister on my 18th birthday, but karma struck back spectacularly at her wedding. Allow me to illustrate the dynamics of my family for you. My name is Deborah, and I was born into a family who publicly called me their midlife mistake. My dad, Michael, 65, is a middle manager who never challenges my mom, Karen, 63, who is a career-obsessed corporate juggernaut. Then there is my sister, Jennifer, 32F, who has never given a damn about me and is 14 years older than me. I was an unwanted surprise when I entered this world. When Mom found out she was pregnant at age 45, she initially assumed it was menopause. She desired an alternative answer. But by the time she met a doctor, it was too late. My arrival wasn't the consequence of a loving parental decision. Based on what I pieced together from overheard discussions and family whispers, I spent more time in the hospital than at home because I was born prematurely and had multiple health problems. Mom never paid much attention, constantly saying she had meetings that were too important to miss. Dad and my Aunt Rachel alternated in keeping an eye on me. Aunt Rachel has become the family's saint. Rachel was there, speaking encouragement through the incubator, while my mother was probably closing deals. "You're going to be just fine, little one. You're stronger than you know." I still think about those words when things get hard. Upon my eventual release from the hospital, my grandfather George took over once more. After determining that our home was insufficient for 2 children, he purchased a brand new 5-bedroom mansion with an enormous backyard in one of Boston's greatest neighborhoods. However, the emotional gap in that home could not be filled by any amount of wealth. The immaculate white carpeting, high-end furnishings, and carefully chosen artwork made growing up there feel like living in a museum. I knew right away that I wasn't a part of the display and was an unwanted artifact. When I was 5 years old, I have one of my best memories. On this Take Your Child to Work day, my classmates were all thrilled to go to their parents' places of employment. Mom gave me a look that made me feel foolish when I asked if I could go with her. "Don't be ridiculous, Deborah," she yelled. I chose to spend the day with Aunt Rachel at her comfortable painting studio instead, saying, "I have important meetings all day. You'd just be in the way. Besides, the office isn't a place for children." She gave me permission to paint, displayed my creations on her walls, and gave me a sense of importance. My haven was school. In an effort to avoid returning home, I threw myself into my studies and joined as many clubs as I could. "Such a quiet, well-behaved child," my teachers would say, praising me. They had no idea that I was afraid of being a burden at home, which is why I behaved well, even during her brief holiday visits. Jennifer's lack of interest was evident. Even though she was already enrolled in college when I entered elementary school, during the holidays, she would come in and tell me about her wonderful college experience without mentioning me, other than to gripe about how her old room had turned into my messy kid space. Grandpa George did his best to make up for my parents' lack of interest. Every few months, Dad would travel from Canada to visit, always bringing thoughtful presents like art supplies, books he knew I would enjoy, and other items that demonstrated his genuine interest in me. However, his presence was insufficient to address the underlying dysfunction in our family dynamic. In essence, Mom's approach to parenting was to spend money on issues and hope they would go away. Lessons in dance? Yes. Tutoring in private? In any case, attending my performance or parent-teacher conferences in person? Sorry, important meeting, can't reschedule. I received the same apathetic reaction for every accomplishment I made. That's nice, dear. Dad wasn't much better. Now please be quiet, I'm on a call. It turned out that his promise to Mom that he would assist her with me if she chose to have me was a hoax. He was never too tired or too busy to hang out with me. I once tallied how many times he used his favorite phrase, "Not now, Deborah." In a single weekend, 17 times. I can still recall my 10th birthday. Naturally, Mom and Dad forgot without even asking what I would desire, They hurriedly ordered a pricey cake and threw money at me. When Aunt Rachel reminded them, Jennifer never gave a call. The only actual celebration took place the next day at Rachel's house when she set up a small gathering with homemade cake and decorations that she knew I would adore. I became increasingly aware of the truth of my circumstances. As I grew older, I pieced together the facts from bits and pieces of drunken confessions and whispered disputes that I shouldn't have overheard. When I was 12, I overheard my parents arguing about me one evening. Mom, who was likely drinking her third glass of wine, said, "She's just so demanding, needing something, always wanting attention. I did not sign up for this. How do you want me to handle this?" Dad retorted, "We can't really give her back." I began spending much more time at Aunt Rachel's after that. Her modest yet comfortable home turned into my actual residence. She would listen to my issues, help me with my homework, and teach me how to cook, all of the duties that parents are expected to perform. On the weekends, we would work on creative projects, bake cookies, or simply chat about life. She would inquire about my aspirations, anxieties, and future goals, things that my own parents never bothered to find out about. As the years passed, the gap between my life at home and my time with Rachel grew more pronounced. I was Debbie at Rachel's, loved, respected, and heard. I was Deborah at my parents' house, the misfit, the trouble, the unwelcome one. I discovered how to exist in these parallel universes, flipping between them like a television channel. Naturally, Grandpa George noticed. In order to guarantee that I would have assets of my own when I turned 18, Dad began making direct deposits into a private account on my behalf. With a knowing expression, he would say, "Just in case." I didn't realize at the time how prophetic those comments would turn out to be. The world can be unpredictable. It's interesting how life can throw you a curveball when you least expect it. When my parents dropped a bombshell on me, I was 18, counting down the days until I could leave for college and struggling to get by each day in the emotional wasteland that was my home. "Deborah," Mom continued in a very upbeat tone, "we have amazing news. Jennifer, your sister, is pregnant and getting married. We're going to be grandparents," Dad added with a foolish smile, wondering why they were telling me this as though I should be ecstatic. I forced a smile. "That's fantastic," I said. Mom went on, "We're going to be very busy preparing for the wedding." Oblivious to my lack of excitement, their eyes flitted to my bedroom door, and then, all of a sudden, everything fell into place. "Jennifer and her husband will need space for the baby when they move in with us after the wedding." It all made sense, the measuring tape I had seen in my room, the whispered discussions I had been overhearing, and their strange interest in my college aspirations. They were preparing for my departure, as well as Jennifer's return. I realized that the upcoming weeks would be a game-changer. As I stood there and saw their faces light up at the thought of their real family getting together, I had no idea how drastically those changes would occur or how karma would soon make a big appearance in our family's drama. Update 1. How my parents officially erased me on my 18th birthday. Allow me to explain how my parents formally removed me from their lives on my 18th birthday. Aunt Rachel prepared her customary birthday pancakes and gave me the most considerate presents, including books, art tools, and a lovely handcrafted photo album of our times together. I spent the morning with her. Grandpa George was the true surprise. I initially assumed he was just being protective as usual, but now that I think about it, it seems like he knew something was coming. He had sent me the newest smartphone along with a letter that read, "Keep it handy and document anything important." When I got home to join in the celebration, he also requested me to participate in a live video call. I was unaware that I was going to document the proof that would make all the difference. I started the live video with Grandpa at noon and went home while talking to Aunt Rachel about my morning. Something didn't feel right. When I opened the front door, there was an odd fragrance of fresh paint in the air, and the house was eerily quiet. My pulse began to race as I ascended the stairs to my room. Something was clearly off. I always left my door open, but now it was closed. I nearly dropped my phone in horror when I turned the handle. My room was no longer my own. After being covered in my photographs and artwork, the walls were recently painted a gentle shade of blue. An ornate white crib had taken the place of my bed. Teddy bears were all over the place, and where my desk had been, there was a rocking chair to fit the nautical theme. Even the curtains had been changed. I heard footsteps behind me at that moment. My parents were shocked to discover me filming as they came out of their bedroom. "Deborah," Mom said sternly, "why are you in this place? Why are you taping?" I was still processing the whole deletion of my existence, so I hardly paid attention to what she was saying. My room, what happened to it? Where are all my belongings? Dad nervously cleared his throat. "You see, Deborah, we've made the decision to give your sister's child this room, because it has the most natural light, it's ideal for a nursery. And our first grandson deserves the best," he said with a beaming passion that I had never seen directed at me. Mom interrupted, saying, "Jennifer is expecting a boy. The son your father has always desired." It seemed as though someone had punched me in the stomach. However, where should I sleep? Where are my belongings? With a dismissive gesture toward the stairs, Dad remarked, "Oh, we packed up your stuff. The garage is where the boxes are. When you depart, you ought to bring them along. Go." My voice broke. "Leave? What do you mean? I call this place home." Mom's phony grin wavered. "Deborah, you must comprehend, dear, there just isn't room for you here anymore. Especially with Jennifer and her husband moving in and the baby on the way. Furthermore, you should learn how to support yourself now that you are 18. What I was hearing was unbelievable. "No," I murmured, my voice wavering. "No, I won't go. I also call this place home. You can't just ignore me like I don't exist." Mom finally lost her temper and said, "For heaven's sake, Deborah, avoid being tough. This is about family, not about you. I am a member of your family." Tears were flowing down my face as I yelled, "I am your daughter. My birthday is today. And you're throwing me out. Did you not even realize it was my birthday?" Dad rolled his eyes. "Is it your birthday? Is it the purpose of this outburst? We have no time for such nonsense." Their indifference struck me like a blow to the body. Mom looked anxiously at my phone, which was still filming everything while I was crying. "Stop causing a commotion," she growled. "The neighbors will listen." "Well done," I fired back. "Give them permission. Make it clear to everyone your true character." Dad's fingers dug cruelly into my arm. At that moment he snarled, "That's enough," and pulled me to the stairs. "Leave right away and don't return." After a shove, I was on the front porch with my stuff and hurriedly packed boxes. With a finality that reverberated in my bones, the door slammed behind me. I'm not sure how long I sat there crying, but Grandpa George's voice finally broke through my tears. "Are you there, Deborah? My love. I witnessed everything. Don't worry, we'll resolve this. For now, go to Rachel's, shall we? And be careful with the video." Having witnessed the entire event via Grandpa's shared live broadcast, Rachel was already waiting at her door when I got there. For the first time that day, I felt secure as she drew me into a strong embrace. Rachel insisted that my birthday be celebrated. She ordered my favorite meal, invited some of my closest friends over, and made every effort to make the day memorable. We all understood, however, that this was about more than just a botched birthday celebration. It was about my whole existence being completely upended. Grandpa George sent me an email that night when I was lying in bed in Rachel's guest room, which she started referring to as my room right away. He had a strategy, and his lawyer had saved and certified the live stream footage. He wrote, "The wedding is in 3 days. Be prepared. Karma occasionally requires a little assistance to get going." I didn't realize at the time how correct he was or how spectacularly karma was about to hit. Update 2. Jennifer's wedding is the target of karma. Aunt Rachel demanded that we go to Jennifer's wedding, even though we weren't invited. She helped me into a gorgeous blue frock she had purchased for the event and remarked, "We have every right to be there. Besides, we were specifically invited by Grandpa George." As soon as we walked into the reception area, I saw Grandpa. I felt uneasy, since he was sitting at a table close to the front, looking sharp in his pricey suit. His exact plans were kept a secret from me, as he wanted to be prepared for some justice. As my parents had imagined, the ceremony itself was picture perfect. In her expensive gown, Jennifer looked stunning, and her new husband appeared to be a kind guy, although a little overwhelmed by the extravagance. Throughout the ceremony, Mom and Dad looked like the ideal family they had always envisioned, beaming with delight. As my parents worked the room throughout the reception, boasting about their expecting grandson and pregnant daughter, I observed from a corner table. They presumably hoped we wouldn't cause a commotion by deliberately placing us at the farthest table. If only they were aware of the impending danger. Grandpa George abruptly rose during the celebratory supper as the congratulatory remarks got underway. The astonished best man handed over the microphone to him as he marched to the front of the room. There was silence in the room. He opened with the serene authority that only comes with age and wealth. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to disturb this happy occasion, but there is a serious injustice that must be addressed. I have respect from my parents' early denial of my existence to their recent eviction on my birthday." On the projection screen in the reception area, he presented a few selected segments from the live feed, allowing everyone to see their actual hues in high definition. He roared, "These people threw their own daughter out like garbage on her 18th birthday to make room for their new grandson. Keep an eye on this." The film showed Dad's physical aggressiveness and Mom's contemptuous cruelty. The guests' faces shifted from bewilderment to surprise to indignation. In fact, a few of Mom's best friends stood up and left as she watched. Jennifer's mascara trickled down her cheeks, making her new spouse appear more uneasy. Grandpa wasn't done. When Mom, her face flushed, tried to intervene, his voice was as frigid as ice when he turned to face my parents. "Let me state this unequivocally. I am altering my will. I will give Rachel and Deborah every penny I have. Jennifer, Karen, and Michael, you're all totally disconnected. The investment accounts, the trust monies, everything, disappeared." The outcome was instantaneous chaos. Mom cried out in a choked voice. Jennifer wept about the future of her unborn child as Dad's face became a frightening shade of purple. The biggest surprise, though, was when a number of Dad's business associates got up and walked away, pointing out their business cards to Grandpa as they went. As you can see, my parents were unaware or had conveniently forgotten that Grandpa was not only rich but also a significant investor in a number of businesses, including the one where Dad worked and many of Mom's most important clients. Grandpa had a significant impact on both their business and social networks. Mom's well-cultivated social circle started apologizing and departing as we watched. Suddenly, Dad's coworkers were unable to look him in the eye. Jennifer's in-laws appeared to be having a heated argument, while gathered in a corner. When Jennifer's new husband got up and declared he needed some air, it was the last straw. He still hasn't returned. He is reportedly speaking with divorce attorneys because he doesn't want to be associated with a family that has such a well-publicized problem. The best thing, though, is this: do you recall the business cards that people were giving to Grandpa? As it happens, a number of Dad's colleagues had been searching for fresh investment prospects. By the end of the evening, Mom's clientele was beginning to appear extremely slender, and Dad's business had lost 3 significant investors. Grandpa smiled at me contentedly as we walked out of the celebration. Letting people ruin themselves is sometimes the best kind of retaliation, my love. All I did was make sure their audience was appropriate. Since then, My parents have been bombarding my phone with frantic messages about understanding, forgiveness, and family. They even attempted to break into Rachel's house yesterday. When they arrived, I made the decision that enough was enough. At that point, after glancing at Rachel, I made the choice that would alter everything. "I want you to be my legal guardian," I replied. Our lawyer claimed it was almost a slam dunk with the video proof we had, and the paperwork was already underway. The reputation of Mom and Dad was in ruins. Their financial future appeared bleak, and they had been abandoned by their social group. At the time, Jennifer was residing with our parents. Her idyllic life was falling apart around her, and she was being shut out by her husband's family. As they say, karma is a wonderful thing. Tomorrow, I'm going to file for a restraining order. It should be an easy win because of the video proof of Dad's physical assault and their emotional abuse. If we wish to pursue a civil complaint, our attorney thinks we have sufficient funds for one as well. Grandpa George wasn't joking when he said that karma needed a little assistance occasionally. But it was worth every tear I ever shed because of my parents to see their meticulously maintained facade fall apart. Third update. I'm finally prepared to discuss how the wedding went. Even though the effect has been utterly devastating, karma did more than simply strike back. It composed a symphony of justice that would make any fan of vengeance cry with delight. Let's begin with the court case. Only 2 weeks after the disastrous wedding, the court hearing for Rachel's guardianship and my restraining order was set. My parents appeared in their most favored role, that of loving, worried parents who only wanted their daughter back. They had even engaged a public relations consultant to assist them in developing their image, giving them advice on how to come out as contrite. The sight in the courtroom was unreal. In contrast to her typical power suits, Mom dressed in her best concerned mother attire, complete with natural makeup and modest jewelry. In fact, Dad had a new haircut and, of all things, a Bible with him. They had even brought in character witnesses, mainly well-off friends, who were prepared to attest to their commitment as parents. They weren't ready for what we had, though. In addition to the birthday video, our lawyer provided years' worth of financial documents that demonstrated how they had misappropriated the assistance funds that Grandpa had been sending for my upbringing. As it turned out, they had been transferring the majority of it, more than $200,000, to their personal investment accounts and Jennifer's trust fund. I will never forget the judge's expression as the footage was being played again. She even halted the proceedings to inquire if I wanted to file criminal charges when it reached the point when Dad physically pulled me out. I refused. It was enough torture to watch their world fall apart. She was adamant, nonetheless, about sending the case to the district attorney's office for examination for my parents. The judge's decision was terrible. In addition to being given full guardianship, they were mandated to reimburse Rachel for all of the money that had been embezzled from her support, plus interest. They must keep at least 500 feet away from Rachel and myself, according to the restraining order that was granted. However, that was only the start of their demise. Do you recall the wedding's business contacts? They were rushing, not simply walking away. After a number of investors left, Dad's company carried out an internal audit, which revealed several dubious choices he had made. He was relegated to a role with little actual authority or client contact, but he wasn't dismissed outright. Interns now share a cubicle with the man who once held the corner office. Even more spectacularly, Mom's career collapsed. Her once advantageous reputation as a brutal businesswoman was now viewed differently. Clients canceled contracts, citing ethical concerns when the video of her ruthlessly evicting her own daughter went viral in local business circles. She now reports to someone who was once her junior associate after her corner office was moved to a cubicle 3 floors down. The social repercussions were just as disastrous. Following a particularly contentious board meeting where the video was aired, their membership in the country club was cancelled. To get away from them, old friends crossed the street. Their names inexplicably disappeared off the donor wall when their church requested that they take a break from committee work. In little more than a month, the meticulously crafted social standing they had spent decades cultivating fell apart. Things haven't gotten much better for Jennifer. 2 weeks after the wedding, her husband filed for divorce, citing fraudulent misrepresentation of family character. She continues to live with our parents, using department store maternity clothes in place of her fashionable pregnancy outfit. My former room, the nursery they so brutally evicted me for, is now empty and underused, while her ideal suburban dream has degraded into sharing her old adolescent bedroom with her expectant child. The impact on finances has been enormous. Grandpa George wasn't threatening the will in a meaningless way. He essentially moved the majority of his assets out of my parents' grasp by having his attorneys create an irrevocable trust for Rachel and me. They have now received eviction papers from the house they reside in, which is officially held by one of Grandpa's businesses, while the investigation into the stolen support monies is ongoing. Their investment portfolio has been placed on hold. They made every effort to turn things around, including offering treatment, making heartfelt apologies, and even trying to buy us neighbors to spy on us. They sent their lawyer to negotiate last week, seemingly ready to forgive me if I could persuade Grandpa to restore their inheritance. It was almost impressive how bold they were. For my part, things have taken a surprisingly positive turn in what is now officially my permanent residence. Rachel and I share a home. We've painted my room in my favorite colors, hung my artwork, and made it genuinely mine, so it's no longer just a guest room. Rachel even assisted me in creating a very light-equipped reading nook near the window. I feel like I have a true home for the first time in my life. Grandpa George established a substantial college fund, and I've received acceptance offers for the next autumn semester from multiple universities. I'm going to study psychology with a focus on family trauma therapy because, well, I might as well apply my life experience. I've already begun assisting other teenagers from toxic homes deal with their circumstances by working at a nearby youth shelter. The amount of support I've received has been tremendous. It seems that many people in similar circumstances found resonance in my narrative. I've started a blog to chronicle my healing process, join support groups, and gain new friends that can relate to what I've been through. The texts I get every day from people going through similar things give me hope that all of this suffering can lead to something positive. Yesterday, my parents' most recent attempt to get in touch was a formal letter from their lawyer, threatening to sue me for defamation if I don't take back my false accusations. Our lawyer actually chuckled when he read it, but he also reminded them that we have everything on video and that the truth is an absolute defense against defamation. As I reflect on the last 3 months, I've come to the essential realization that sometimes the family you were born into isn't the one you were intended to be with. I learned what unconditional, encouraging, and respectful family love looks like from Rachel and Grandpa George. They have only ever asked for my pleasure and well-being in exchange. To everyone who helped me along the way, you have no idea how much your messages, counsel, and experiences have aided me. The Reddit community turned out to be a surprising wellspring of knowledge and courage. You showed me that standing up for myself wasn't selfish and that I wasn't wrong to ask my parents to have basic human decency. There is hope for people who are still stuck in unhealthy familial environments. Create a support system, keep track of everything, and never forget that you deserve better. Being related by blood does not give someone the right to mistreat you. Those who don't love you well don't define your value. I've legally changed my identity. I have a real home. And I can finally control my future. When I start college in the fall, karma rolls hard, but occasionally it needs a little prodding. I'm sure my folks are reading this, so I hope it was worthwhile. You lost the daughter you never cared to adore, as well as everything else, because of your ideal family image. Reddit, I appreciate you sharing in my path to liberation. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My parents skipped my graduation for my sister's party. A for cutting ties due to their neglect. Hello Reddit, I've been struggling for years with a family dilemma, and I need your opinion. Hold on tight because this is a lengthy and intricate tale. My upbringing was typical of a suburban American family, but with a twist. The golden child has always been my older sister. It was evident from the time of my birth that my parents had a favorite, and it wasn't me. They wanted my sister to be attractive, athletic, and vivacious, and she was all three. She had the ability to enchant everyone, including neighbors and new classmates, giving them the sense that she was the epitome of perfection. Then there was me. I wouldn't describe myself as typical. But in my parents' eyes, I might as well have been invisible in comparison to my sister. I was constantly failing. They prevented me from being who I am because they wanted me to appear and behave like her. I wasn't even allowed the luxury of attempting to find myself at a time when most children are having a hard time. Allow me to illustrate this with a few instances from our everyday life. My sister was always the main character in school plays. When we were kids, our parents would be in the spotlight, beaming with delight, and she would be given the lead part. I recall having a minor speaking role in the school play one year. I was ecstatic because I believed that this would be my opportunity to finally make them proud. However, my sister had a soccer match the night of the concert, so they were running late. They devoted the remainder of the evening to praising my sister's performance in her game, completely missing my contribution. The family pictures came next. We would take a family photo each year to use on our Christmas cards, with our parents' hands on her shoulders. My sister would always be the center of attention. Almost as an afterthought, I would be off to the side. I requested if I might stand in the center for once when I was around 12 years old. It hurt more than words can describe when my mother laughed it off and said, "Oh honey, your sister is taller. It just looks better this way." As the abandoned kid who lived in their sister's shadow. All I wanted as a child was the approval and attention of my parents. My day used to be brightened by the smallest hint of positive feedback from them. I realize that's pathetic, but at the moment, it meant the world to me. It wasn't made any easier by my sister. I was bullied by her, and she was brilliant at it. She would never stop telling me that I would never be able to live up to her standards, and that our parents would never love me as much as they loved her. My self-esteem was influenced for years to come by everyday suffering. I have a clear memory of one occasion. I had just won a local writing competition at the age of 14. I was ecstatic, thinking at last, I've accomplished something significant. My sister interrupted me at dinner to announce that she had been selected as the cheerleading squad's captain. Suddenly, my accomplishment was forgotten. My parents talked about how this would look fantastic on her college applications for the remainder of the evening. My victory in the event was never brought up again. The preference became much more obvious as we got older. Our parents purchased a brand new vehicle for my sister when she obtained her driver's license. 2 years later, when it was my turn, I was informed that if I needed to go someplace, I could borrow the old family minivan. Every time I attempted to bring up the obvious difference in treatment, I was told I was being jealous or overly sensitive. When I graduated from high school, that was the tipping point. I was able to graduate as valedictorian in spite of all the difficulties. I couldn't wait to tell my parents about it because it was the proudest time of my early life. As I delivered my speech, I pictured them grinning with pride, finally recognizing me for who I truly was. However, they failed to appear. It seems like my sister's celebration with her friends at our summer cottage was more significant than their younger daughter's high school graduation. They offered me a number of justifications, claiming that graduating from high school wasn't a huge issue. It meant everything to me. I had worked so hard for this moment, which I believed would finally bring them joy. The seats I had set up for the audience were empty, so I recall standing at the stage and looking around in the hopes of seeing their faces as I spoke at the ceremony, my voice quivering a little. I understood that anything I accomplished would never be sufficient for them. Something inside of me broke that day. I made a choice that would alter my life's trajectory. I chose the college that was the furthest distance from my house, as far away from Ohio as possible. I applied to West Coast schools. My parents were taken aback when I told them I had decided to attend college after dinner one evening. They had presumed that I would attend the same public school where my sister had gone. "But that's so far away," objected my mother. "How will you manage on your own?" It was the first time I can recall them being concerned about me, although even then, there was some skepticism about my skills. College was enlightening. I was able to be myself for the first time in my life. My favorite subject was English, which I studied despite my parents' disapproval. My studies had been pushed to be practical, as they called it, like law or business. However, I refused to back down. I discovered how to live my life as I desired, ignoring their judgment. I really started to take off in college. I found my own strengths without having to constantly compare myself to my sister. I discovered that I had a knack for journalism after joining the campus newspaper. For the first time, I felt recognized and valued for my own abilities when my professors gave me positive feedback on my work. I also met my future husband while I was a college student. Instead of viewing me as someone's sister or daughter, he viewed me for who I was. We first connected in a literary class for general education. I volunteered to help him with an essay he was having trouble with. We spent hours discussing our lives, aspirations, and anxieties, in addition to the assignment. For the first time, I felt like I was being heard. My pals weren't truly friends. Usually, they merely approached me to learn more about my sister. However, I discovered in college the importance of true friendships. Love, and all of their facets. It wasn't because of or in spite of my family that I met friends who liked me for who I was. We would encourage one another through the stress of term papers and examinations, go on road trips during breaks, and stay up late studying together. I didn't bother phoning my family once I graduated, as I was surrounded by my friends and my future husband. I was correct when I said that they would come up with another reason to skip it. They failed to show up, claiming that my father was unable to postpone a business trip. However, it didn't hurt as much this time. I was surrounded by members of my chosen family who genuinely cared about my progress. I moved in with my now husband, who had secured a position at a tech firm after graduating, and obtained a job in marketing. All I ever heard from my parents when they called at this time was the news about my sister. I never had the stamina to tell them about my life. And they never bothered to inquire about me unless they were making negative comparisons to my sister. It seemed as though I didn't exist. One call stands out in my memory. About 6 months had passed since graduation. For someone just out of college, my promotion to junior manager was rather significant. I was thrilled and hoped that my folks would be pleased. I was excited to tell my mother the news when she called. "Oh, that's nice, dear. Did you hear your sister is expecting? We're going to be grandparents," she replied, after a brief silence. My sister's pregnancy took up the remainder of the call. No one ever brought up my promotion again. As the years went by, my career took off. I rose through the ranks of the company, receiving honors and promotions, but my family didn't seem to care. My accomplishments were greeted with disdain, or worse, silence, while my sister's accomplishments were hailed as national feats. I made an effort to stay in touch with my relatives. Yes, I did. I would occasionally fly back for Thanksgiving, send birthday cards, and make phone calls on holidays. However, each visit was identical. My sister and her expanding family would take center stage, and I would be relegated to the background. My parents hardly acknowledged me as they lavished affection on her kids, my niece and nephew. I remember one Thanksgiving in particular. I had taken a leave of absence from an important project at work and flown home. I hoped that things would be different this time. Without the typical drama. Perhaps we could enjoy a pleasant family meal. How foolish I was. We talked about my sister's recent home improvement and her kids' academic success the whole evening. My father interrupted me in the middle of telling me about my recent promotion to senior manager to inquire about my sister's Christmas plans. My current spouse and I became engaged a few years later. Later that year, we were to get married. Surprisingly, my family expressed interest in the marriage when I told them. I dared to dream for a second that things could be turning around. However, when they learned that my fiancé came from a typical middle-class family instead of a wealthy one, their curiosity soon gave way to disappointment. You know, your sister's husband is a surgeon, so there must be some good physicians or attorneys at your company. But honey, my mother continued, her voice brimming with disappointment, don't you think you could do better? Their suggestion left me stunned. They were still unable to accept my decisions and see me for who I was after all these years. The final person to find out about my wedding was my sister, who never held back when voicing her dislike for both my fiancé and me. She always talked to me as if I were the dirt under her feet. However, I was insensitive to her reactions by that point because I had grown accustomed to it. She scoffed when I informed her about my fiancé's work and asked, "A marketing manager? I suppose that's nice. Not everyone can marry a doctor after all." We proceeded with our wedding arrangements in spite of my family's response. With the assistance of my in-laws and friends, the wedding was organized. The parents I never had were my in-laws. I cried more than once because they loved me unconditionally and treated me like their own. They constantly promised me that they would support me because they were aware of my difficulties with my sister and parents. My future in-laws were kind, encouraging, and truly interested in my life, everything I could have ever hoped for in a parent. They celebrated by taking us out to dinner after I informed them of my promotion. They listened to my worries about the wedding and my family's response without passing judgment, and provided consolation and guidance. One of the conversations I had with my future mother-in-law almost made me cry. I hesitated when we were discussing wedding invitations because they were from my family. She asked what was wrong after noticing my anxiety. She dropped the pen she was holding and took my hands in hers. After I explained the circumstances, "Sweetheart," she declared, "family is more than blood. It's the people who love and support you, who celebrate your joys and comfort you in your sorrows. We may not have given birth to you, but you are our daughter in every way that matters." I couldn't adequately convey the significance of her words. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere and that people loved and respected me for who I was, not how I compared to other people. Ultimately, my parents weren't happy with the way our wedding was organized. Only our closest friends and family were invited to the tiny, uncomplicated wedding. My fiancé and I both desired a simple wedding that would highlight and symbolize our relationship and love. However, my parents urged me to alter the specifics in order to accommodate a larger gathering with lavish decor. They contended that since I was their daughter, I ought to get married the way my sister did. Their last-minute suggestions irritated me, so I urged them to focus on me for once. "This is my wedding," I firmly informed them. "We want a small, intimate ceremony with the people who truly care about us. If you can't respect that, then maybe you shouldn't come at all." It was so quiet on the other end of the phone. My sister was clearly struggling to come to terms with the fact that my wedding day would be all about me. Every time we met, she made sure to demoralize me by making crude remarks about what a real wedding ought to be like. With a tone full of phony worry, she would ask, "Are you sure you want to do it this way? People might think you can't afford a proper wedding. It's not too late to let Mom and Dad help, you know." I was experiencing a mixture of trepidation and excitement as the wedding day drew near. The family conflict was clouding what should have been the happiest day of my life. Even though I was excited to marry the love of my life, there was a lot of last-minute planning going on. The week before the wedding, we were rushing about to finalize the details, check with vendors, and greet visitors from out of town. My phone was eerily silent the entire time. There were no texts from my sister wishing me luck or calls from my parents asking if I needed assistance. The quiet was a fresh source of worry as well as a relief. My phone eventually buzzed the night before the wedding while we were sitting in our apartment, surrounded by seating maps and wedding favors. My mother sent me a text. "Your father and I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to wear the necklace your grandmother left you. No congrats." No show of enthusiasm or affection, just a little reminder that I was already going to wear a family heirloom. That night, I slept with a knot in my gut, wondering what the next day might hold. Would I be accepted for who I am by my family at last, for a single day? Might they put aside their criticisms and comparisons, and just be pleased for me? Or was I preparing myself for one last heartbreaking letdown? I had no idea that the worst was still to come. I'm at a loss, Reddit. The catastrophe on the wedding day and the events that transpired have caused me to doubt everything. Is it inappropriate of me to want my parents to attend my special day? Are years of neglect causing me to overreact? I want your honest thoughts. Is it time to break off relations with my family, or should I keep fighting for a relationship? I'll provide an update on the wedding day and its aftermath shortly. I would be very grateful for any guidance or assistance. I feel like I'm at a fork in the road and don't know which way to go. First update. I appreciate all of your support on my last post, Reddit. I've attached the update I promised regarding my wedding day and its events. On the morning of my wedding, I felt both anxious and excited. My mom called as I was getting ready. My heart leapt for any encouraging or loving words. Rather, she struck a devastating blow. "Honey, we won't be able to make it to the wedding. Your sister's child is having his birthday party today, and you know how important family is to us." I was taken aback. Instead of attending their daughter's wedding, my parents were picking a kid's birthday celebration. Don't be selfish, dear. I'm sure you understand. You don't even have children. So these things might not seem important to you. My mother stated in response to my complaint. I felt numb as I hung up. When my future mother-in-law heard, she reassured me right away. "Remember," she continued, "you have a whole room of people here who love you and are excited to celebrate with you today." At that moment, I resolved not to allow the absence of my family to spoil my day. It was a lovely ceremony. Nothing else mattered until I saw the joy on my fiancé's face as I walked down the aisle. It meant so much to me that my father-in-law substituted for me during the father-daughter dance. Although there was a lot of love and happiness at the reception, my family's absence was always brought to mind by the vacant chairs where they should have been. My family had left me notes and missed calls when I got up the following morning. In fact, my sister had texted, "Hope you had a nice wedding. Sorry we couldn't make it, but the party was a blast." The final straw was that I dialed them, my voice trembling with determination and rage. I said, "I'm done," to them. "You've shown me where I stand in this family, and I'm done accepting it. From now on, you're no longer part of my life." I hung up and banned their numbers in spite of their protests. It was the most liberating thing I've ever done, but it was also one of the hardest. The next weeks have been difficult. In addition to feelings of relief, there are times of uncertainty and sorrow. The support from my husband and in-laws has been tremendous. In order to overcome years of emotional neglect, I have begun treatment. My marriage and our future together are my main priorities, one that isn't hampered by my family's rejection. For the first time again, I want to thank Reddit for your support. I was able to defend myself because of it. I'm focusing on getting better and moving on for the time being, but I'll keep you updated if anything noteworthy occurs. Am I mistaken for severing my familial ties? Even though I no longer believe so, I would still value your opinions as I move forward in this new phase of my life. Second update, Reddit. I haven't posted in a month, and my family's situation has gotten worse. This is what took place. My parents arrived at our flat without warning a week after I last posted. They demanded to know why I had severed ties with them. I carefully described how their absence at my wedding and years of neglect had caused me much pain. "We've always loved you," my mom insisted. "Everything we did was because we wanted the best for you." It was unbelievable to me. I explained to them how their partiality had damaged my self-worth and how, as a result of their treatment of me, I had spent years believing I was unworthy. It was not warmly received by them. While my mother wept over me breaking her heart, my father accused me of being ungrateful. Fortunately, my in-laws showed up and requested that my parents vacate. "When you're done with this tantrum, you know where to find us," my mother added as they departed. I was mistaken to believe that would be the end of it. I came across a social media post from my sister a few weeks later. "Finally got my dream bike. Thanks, Mom and Dad," was the caption for a picture of her holding my old motorcycle. I was taken aback. I purchased that bike on my own after graduating from high school. I intended to bring it to my new residence following the wedding. Therefore, I had left it at my parents' house. My sister confirmed that our parents had given her the bike. When I called her, my parents dismissed it when I brought it up, claiming that once I was married, I no longer needed it. My father told me, "Don't be selfish. Your sister needs it more than you do." That was the last straw. I threatened to take legal action if they didn't return the bike right away. They said I couldn't sue my parents, laughing. I answered, "Watch me," and hung up. My husband and I talked it over and ultimately agreed to get legal advice. She verified that we had a case. I owned the motorcycle, which I had paid for myself. We have formally demanded in writing that the motorcycle be returned. We're ready to go to court if that doesn't work. I never imagined that I would have to consider taking my own parents to court. Yet here we are. Am I going too far by bringing up attorneys Reddit? Is it right for me to hold my ground, or should I let the motorcycle go for the sake of peace? As soon as my parents respond, I'll provide an update. I would be grateful for any guidance or assistance. All of this feels unreal, and I'm having a hard time figuring it out. I appreciate your support, everyone. You don't realize how much it matters. Third update. Hello, Reddit. I'm back to provide the resolution to this family drama, which has been going on for approximately 3 months. I want to thank each and every one of you for your unwavering support during this challenging road. A lot has transpired. Let us start by discussing the motorcycle's legal status. My parents originally disregarded the formal letter we wrote requesting it back. They appeared to believe that we were threatening to file a lawsuit. My father finally answered the phone when our lawyer called to follow up, but he only did so to deny our accusation and threatened to disown me if we went any further. We made the decision to bring a civil lawsuit. Although it was a difficult choice, we believed that we had to defend our position. It was a weird day when we learned that the lawsuit had been filed. I never thought that my parents and I would be involved in a court case, but here we were. To our astonishment, my parents' attitude drastically altered once they recognized how serious we were. They wanted to talk things out and stay out of court. All of a sudden, their plan to sort things out though was to use guilt-tripping to get me to dismiss the lawsuit. My father would alternate between being angry and trying to manipulate me by saying things like, "After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us." My mother called and sobbed about how I was destroying the family over a silly bike. I remained steadfast. I clarified that the issue was no longer simply about the motorcycle, but also about limits, respect, and realizing that they had no right to give away my belongings. My parents eventually consented to return the motorcycle after realizing they would have to appear in court. Nonetheless, they demanded payment for my sister's gift from them. As long as I regained my property, I was okay with this. It was a stressful day when I went to pick up the motorcycle. Fortunately, my sister wasn't present, but my parents were aloof and unfriendly. My mother tried to guilt me one final time. As I was getting ready to depart, she said, "I hope you're happy now. You've gotten what you wanted, but at what cost?" After giving her a quick glance, I answered. The cost of my self-respect and the realization that I deserve better treatment from my family. After that, I felt both sad and free as I went out on my bike. I've come to the conclusion that I need to take a total vacation from my family. As a result of this event, I haven't made this decision lightly. But I think it's essential for my well-being and mental health. I've been negatively impacted by the years of favoritism toward my sister, the ongoing manipulation of my emotions, and the disdain for my accomplishments and sentiments. I've tried to gain their acceptance for far too long, only to be let down and hurt all the time. I've benefited greatly from my therapist's assistance in processing these emotions. She has taught me that putting my own health first, even if it means separating from toxic family members, is okay. She has also assisted me in identifying the emotional abuse patterns that I have accepted throughout the years. I've formally told my parents that I've decided to sever all contact. I wrote them a letter outlining my justifications and requesting that they honor my request to avoid communication. Their reaction was expected, a mix of fury, guilt-tripping, and attempts to downplay how I felt. However, I was able to ignore it for the first time. I've come to understand that my value is not determined by what they think of me. Naturally, my sister has sided with our parents. I blocked her on all social media sites to stop her from spreading hateful remarks about ungrateful siblings and the importance of family. The upside is that this experience has strengthened my bonds with my husband and in-laws. They have provided me with constant love and support, making them my rock. In particular, my mother-in-law has been amazing. Whenever I needed a consoling embrace or a sympathetic ear, she was there. With the drama in my family no longer a burden, my husband and I have been concentrating on creating our life together. We've been discussing creating a family, and for the first time, I'm thrilled about the idea without having to worry about constantly being compared to others or living up to unrealistic expectations. I've also been putting a lot of effort into my hobbies and job. Painting has been immensely therapeutic and has helped me rediscover aspects of myself that I had repressed for years. I've always wanted to try painting but never did because my parents didn't think it was a useful skill. We've been hanging out a lot with friends who have grown to be like family. Being around upbeat, encouraging people has completely changed the way I view the world. In retrospect, I can say that this entire experience has been both transforming and extremely painful. I've learned to prioritize my own well-being, set limits, and advocate for myself. I've come to understand that family is made up of those who love and support you without conditions, not just blood ties. I want to reassure those who may be in similar circumstances. It's acceptable to keep your distance from poisonous family members. Prioritizing your happiness and mental well-being is okay. You should be supported, loved, and respected, and sometimes it means starting your own family. I would want to express my gratitude to this community for all of your help and guidance during this trip. You have no idea how much your encouraging comments have meant to me. They have made me believe in myself and have given me courage in the most trying times. I feel optimistic about the future as I finish this chapter of my life. I'm excited about the life I'm creating, a life full of love, respect, and true happiness. But I'm also sad about the family ties I've lost. Once again, thank you, everybody. I'm thankful to know that this community is available in case I ever need assistance, even if I hope I won't have to provide any more updates concerning family drama. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.